You've been undoubtedly a mentor for a lot of different student athletes and just students across the university. So I'm so excited to finally talk to you about your story.
I know, it's so nice to get to see you in person. And I opened it up and there was just hundreds of positive, awesome comments. Guys that were like, I watched with my daughter. This was so important. And I got letters and messages from people in the industry. Leslie Visser reached out to me, sent me an amazing email that I have I'm so thankful for. And I think she was a trailblazer in this industry, and she took the time to thank me for kind of continuing that tradition. So I love that push continues long after you graduate, because you might leave Michigan, but Michigan will never leave you. And that has been abundantly clear to me every time I go out and I meet other great Michigan alums like Tracy and like Adam Schefter in this industry, because they keep setting the bar so high that I can't help but want to work really hard to do them proud and to do the university proud.
Welcome back to Hail to Her. I'm Haley Polk, and today I'm here with Emmy Award winner Kaitlin Urka. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I met you, I think, my freshman or sophomore year, and you've been undoubtedly a mentor for a lot of different student athletes and just students across the university. So I'm so excited to finally talk to you about your story.
I know, it's so nice to get to see you in person too. I feel like I do so much over Zoom and Teams, so it's such a treat to get to sit down with someone face to face.
This is awesome. So I want to talk about your career. You've done so many things, from football, basketball, the Kentucky Derby, so many things, and I want to talk about what initially sparked your love for sports and your desire to be in television.
So I'm an only child, and my dad said that if he was going to have a girl, she was going to have to be a daddy's girl. And he did a lot of babysitting when I was little, and there was always sports involved. So there are pictures of me very, very young. I've got either a bat in hand, a golf club, a ball of some sort, and I was always out with the boys playing. And so very early on, both playing sports was a big part of my life, and then there was always sports on TV. Every weekend was Michigan football on Saturday and the Lions on Sunday, and that was just a given. So I felt like it was something that was a part of my life early on. I never knew a time where it wasn't.
So then when you come to Michigan, you get involved in Wolf TV, which has been an amazing network for students to get experience in television. So how did being a GM and working high up in that program help set you up?
Wolf TV was awesome. It taught me leadership skills. That was a big thing. And being the general manager of a station and responsible for 100 students, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. You're going to have to tell people things they don't want to hear. And that is a skill set. It's something that you have to learn how to do. So that was important. It was also a great tool for me to learn how to advocate. I had to write grants and get people to fund things I wanted to do. And then most importantly, it gave me the confidence to do this job. And I remember I was pretty naive when I got into it, and I was like, I belong, even if I didn't, looking back on it. But I took some big swings, and I got to interview celebrities. I talked to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jerry Seinfeld and Regina King and Will Smith. And I had probably no business in my head doing those things. But the fact that I was standing on red carpets next to paid professionals and being a part of that, and then being in locker rooms with people from ESPN and NBC and all of those, and Fox, it gave me the sense that I do belong and I can do this if I really want to.
I think it's so interesting too, because I was going to ask you how Michigan set you up, but to be an alumni and to do all of these things, that is just telling of what the tradition and what the Block M means to the industry. And I want to talk about, too, your transition into being a professional, going from news and then being in major sports networks. What was that like to be able to go to your hometown and be in your hometown market?
Yeah, so my first job out of college, I worked at an ABC affiliate in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I think it was market 31 at the time. So a pretty big market. It's the second biggest market in the state. And normally when you start in TV, you're at a real small local thing. So I felt pretty lucky that I got to kind of skip a step there. And it was a real quick, welcome to the real world. But it was great. It was a great opportunity to learn a ton, be hands-on, have access to major sports teams. I mean, I had the Grand Rapids Griffins, AHL team that feeds into the Red Wings, the West Michigan Whitecaps for baseball that feed into the Tigers. So there was a lot of opportunities to cover great sports. And then more importantly, I did news. I was a morning show news producer, and then I did some on-air reporting. And it was a great way to practice that skill set. And then, I was in my hometown market, so my family could watch, and they certainly appreciated that. And I certainly loved getting phone calls from my mother every morning telling me that she disapproved of my outfit choice, but she might have liked my hair that day. So, trade up.
That's so funny. So then you transition, and you've worked every Olympic Games since you were a student at Michigan.
I skipped.
Correct?
Nope. I skipped one. So I was an intern in 2008 in Beijing, and then I was asked to work the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, and I couldn't because I was with ABC, and they wouldn't let me.
Wow, that's not a bad gig.
So I skipped that, and then I ended up doing 7 in total. So Tokyo would have been my last Olympics. I left NBC before Paris.
So how did you get into that immediately?
I was really fortunate in that heading into my senior year at Michigan, there were posted 2 internship opportunities, one with ESPN and one with NBC, and I was going to take a big swing and apply for both. And the NBC internship was awesome. The Alumni Association here at Michigan hosted them, and representatives from NBC came on campus, they gave a presentation, and then they were here. They whittled down the applicants to, let's say, 30, and then they did in-person interviews. And I was fortunate enough that I got that internship to go to the Olympics and spend 4 weeks in China that summer,
wow.
Which was great because ESPN did not take me for their internship. So that
little full circle moment, right?
And it'll come to fruition later on. But I might have written down in a journal entry that I still have that I was going to make them regret that decision and regret not hiring me someday. So a little, just a little motivation.
Yeah, I love that. So you went from wanting to be on camera to being behind the camera and telling a story. So tell me what fueled that drive to go from being a reporter to being a producer?
Well, I quickly discovered when I was on camera in news, there are a lot of negatives that come with that. And there are people that, being a woman in this industry is very tough, and they're going to comment on your appearance every day and not the content that you do. And you have to put yourself out there for people to dissect and tear apart. And social media was really in its infancy when I started. So it could have been far worse, but it was already bad. And so that was part of it, the mental health aspect. But more importantly, the reason that I wanted to be on air was never because I wanted to see myself on screen. I mean, that is my least favorite thing to have to do. The reason I wanted to be on air was because I grew up thinking, those are the people that get to go out and tell the stories. They're the ones that get to meet the athletes and go do the cool things. And I just assumed that if I was going to do those things, that's what I needed to do. And then when I did the jump and came to NBC, I started in their features unit. And I quickly learned that it wasn't the on-air personalities that were finding those stories and telling a lot of those stories. It was the producers. And then they would write the scripts and hand it to an on-air talent to read and front. And so when I learned that, and I learned that I could do all the things I love and not have to worry about going out in public and having people snap, unfortunate photos or tell me that they think that I'm ugly every day, I was like, wait a second, that is pretty great. And so that was a huge part of me stopping the pursuit of being on air, was just realizing that the thing that I really wanted to do and loved the most could be achieved behind the scenes.
And it's so interesting too, because you've done so much. Now that you've been in your career as a producer, you've been doing all the things that's made you so successful and made such an impact. And in 2020, you spearheaded the first all-female NHL broadcast. And I remember hearing about it, and I remember being like, this is incredible. Like, how often do you hear that? And I think too, what was that like, to be able to do something like that and see the impact of what you could do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. In the moment when it was happening, I didn't quite grasp how important and historical it was going to be. It stemmed from my friend AJ Malesko, who is amazing. She's an Olympic gold medalist, hockey player, and she was an analyst at NBC. She's actually now at ESPN for hockey. She took her daughter to Game 7, Toronto-Boston, and was giving her a tour of the production truck. And they get out, and she's like, what'd you think? You know, thinking her daughter was going to be like, oh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
And the first thing her daughter said was, well, Mom, why are there no women in there? And so AJ texted me right away. I was like, this is what my daughter said, and please don't stop working on hockey, and this is how important representation is. And I got sad because I knew there was a bunch of really talented women who did work on hockey, but very rarely did we all get to be in the same place.
Yeah.
And more often than not, I was the only woman in a truck. So I started thinking, like, how can I show the representation that I know was important for me to see? And so I put together a plan and went to my bosses and just said, hey, this is something I would love to do. Not even thinking that none of the 4 major sports had ever done a broadcast, both in front of and behind the scenes, that was all women. But I didn't want it to be a gimmick. So we said, listen, International Women's Day is coming up. It's a great platform. We have women. I also made it a thing. I said, like, I only want to use women who do this all the time. I'm not just cherry picking women to work on the show that don't do hockey. Like, that's a disservice to the game. Like, this broadcast should have the same quality, if not higher, than every other broadcast. The only person who didn't do hockey that we brought on board was Kate Scott, the play-by-play. And we spent time, she did a couple practice games leading up to it so that she could be ready to go, because there just wasn't a woman doing play-by-play for hockey. And I thought that was another important step, because that visibility has translated to now there are women doing play-by-play for hockey. So that opportunity was amazing. And I remember NBC PR coming to me and saying, hey, we need you to do some interviews, like CNN, New York Times, ESPN would like to talk to you on this. And I'm like, and we need a quote from you for like a press release. And I'm going, really? That doesn't happen on any show that I work on. And then I read the first line of the press release and like, history making. I'm like, oh snap.
Yeah,
like,
I just did that.
And then it almost made it worse, because then I realized the pressure, like the enormity of what we were doing. Because if we screw this up, we could set women in sports back big time, right? And the last thing I want is for everybody to watch us and say, look, here's the proof that women can't do this. And so I remember, like, the day of the game, I was throwing up. Like, I was just so nervous. And I knew that we were all super talented in doing it. I was more nervous that people were going to watch and just look for ways to point out the flaws.
Yeah.
And then I remember after the game, the PR guy that was on site came up to me and he said, have you looked at Twitter? And I can't do it. Like, mentally, I can't. He goes, no, you should. And I opened it up, and there was just hundreds of positive, awesome comments. Awesome. Guys that were like, I watched with my daughter. This was so important. So and I got letters and messages from people in the industry. Leslie Visser reached out to me, sent me an amazing email that I have that I'm so thankful for. And I think, like, she was a trailblazer in this industry, and she took the time to thank me for, kind of continuing that tradition. So the impact that it ended up making was far greater than anything I'd ever intended. But I'm so glad that it was that way, because we've seen the impact that broadcast has had since then, and it just makes me smile knowing that some other opportunities and doors might have been opened as a result.
That's so cool to hear. I think just being a woman and not seeing a lot of women in it, and to see the progression because of that is so cool and rewarding. What do you think were some of the challenges, besides the one that you've mentioned, that a lot of women do face in the industry?
Yeah, it's tough being a woman in sports. I would be lying to say otherwise. I mean, I've been in locker rooms and I've heard things said to me and about me that are not great. I've had to deal with sexism and some harassment, and because of my gender, and I feel that there have been opportunities that I've either missed out on or not been thought of for because I was a woman, and that's hard. And I feel like I have to prove myself, and I have to approach my job differently than my male counterparts. And the example I'll give is, as a live event producer now, if something goes wrong and I start yelling in the control room or in a truck, it's, oh, she's a bitch, right? Like, she's just angry and whatever. Now, if my male counterpart did the same thing, oh, he's just a good producer, like high standards, whatever. Like, do you know how many trucks I've been in where guys, like men, have screamed at me or screamed at the truck? That's normal. Now, I don't ever want to be that way, but my point is that same action will be taken differently. So I have to be really thoughtful about how I do things, how I approach things, just knowing that the lens of scrutiny looks different for me than my male counterparts.
Do you think there's any part where being a woman has benefited or helped you?
By that same token, I think, being a woman, when you're the only one in the room, you stand out. Yeah. And if you are smart, you can use that to your advantage, because it's hard to ignore someone when they're the only person in that room. And I also think, for me, it's been an advantage because it's a motivator. Because I am one of those people, you tell me I can't do something, and I'm going to do it. Yeah. I'm feisty, and I'm stubborn. My parents will tell you that. So I use that as fuel and motivation to help achieve things that people probably said you couldn't do or haven't been done.
So how do you think being a woman has shaped the way that you tell stories?
In general, I think that women look at things differently and through a different lens. And I think I bring a just unique perspective. And women make up such a large chunk of sports audience, and they're underserved. And we've learned that in a number of ways. And you see that even in apparel, right? Like, it used to be just put something in pink and that'll be for women. Well, I never wanted to wear something in pink. Like, I wanted to wear the same colors as the team. Now, you're not putting me in a pink Michigan jersey. Like, if it's not maize and blue, I'm not wearing it.
Do they make pink Michigan jerseys?
They did when I was little. And so people had to learn. And so for me, that's a big part of it, is bringing that perspective and understanding that there are different ways to view things. And I think that I can bring a fresh perspective to things that have been done certain ways for years, because that's the way they've been done. And I can kind of come in and shake it up a little bit. So that's the advantage I think it really gives me in my current job.
I think, too, being so successful and being someone, an Emmy Award winner, and doing all the things that you have, it gives someone like me and the people that you do mentor someone to look up to and be like, I can do that. And that's something that I think is really inspiring, especially being a Michigan alum. And you do a lot of work with the Michigan Athletics Career Center. You're here to be on a panel at LSA and with communications, but you do so much for student athletes as well. So what do you think drives your desire to give back? I'm a firm believer in paying it forward. And I know that I am largely where I am today because people took the time to help me or to mentor me. And when I was in school, Tracy Wolfson, who I know you recently had on this podcast, came to do basically what I'm doing while I'm here in Ann Arbor, speak to, I think it was the communications school, and then she had lunch with a group of students, and I happened to be at her table. And listening to her talk and hearing her journey was an important part of the motivation that I had and the confidence that I was given to then
choose this as a profession, because up until that time, it was really hard for me. I didn't see any women on, in roles that I thought that I might want to do. Really, when I was graduating, it was like, okay, you can be a sideline reporter. That's it. And it's mostly just because I didn't even know what else was out there. But I didn't, a lot of that, you hear the phrase, you see it, you can be it. I just hadn't seen it. I didn't see female producers. I didn't see female directors. So I didn't know what other opportunities, but I saw people like Tracy. And so for her to sit at a table and say, like, not only did I do this journey, but there are opportunities for women in myriad of positions in television and in sports, if you want to get into it and you're willing to work hard. And that was a light bulb for me. And it was the time that she took to do that. So I benefited from that. And I find that it's really important that I then pay it forward. And I also think that if I want to change this industry, if I want it to be so that you don't have to ask questions years from now about what it's like being a woman in sports and having to talk about, being one of the only people at the table, I need to help usher along that next generation so that they can fill those seats and be a part of the diversity and representation that I want to see. So I feel like it's a responsibility for me. And also, I love Michigan. So if I can help get more Wolverines out there and potentially being colleagues someday, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So what specific pieces of advice or things that you say to the people that you're mentoring, what are those like that you say to help them?
So I say a couple things. First of all, I say shoot for the moon, right? Because if you miss, at least you're going to land among the stars, right? Mm-hmm. So don't ever look at a job posting, for example, and say, geez, I'm not qualified for this. I don't want to apply. Someone's going to apply. They're probably not qualified for it either. And the worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to get the job. But maybe your name gets on the HR person's radar because they thought your resume was great. And then they think about you for another opportunity. Yeah. And I think, don't let the distance and the space between your dreams and reality stop you from committing to something that you're really passionate about. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is I have, and I call it the kindness method, is what I've kind of written down and developed that I like to share because I found that it was really important for me. So first part of it, keep learning, right? Never, just because you leave Michigan, right, like your degree's not done. There's always new skills to acquire. There's always new things. And if you want to be on the forefront with technology changing, and heck, broadcast has changed so much since I started. Like, HD television wasn't a thing when I first started. Like, we had to make that transition. And now the majority of people are watching on apps and on YouTube. So you have to be willing to learn and change. So that's the first part. And then invest in relationships and invest in yourself. Meeting people, taking the time to get to know them, because you never know when they're going to come back into your life and when you could help them or they could help you. And a rising tide lifts all ships. So helping other people, putting effort into relationships is going to be really important to long-term success. Never shy away from a challenge. Like, you're going to have opportunities thrown at you, and they're going to be scary. And I've had them. I've had bosses say, "Hey, we want you to work on the Tour de France," for example. Well, that scared the bejesus out of me. I didn't know anything about cycling, first of all, and then realizing that it's 21 stages. You're in a different city every day, and in France, and I don't speak a lick of French, so I am just total panic mode. And then I realized, like, this could be such a cool experience. Well, I've done 7 of them now, and wow. It's one of my favorite things that I've ever done. Was it incredibly difficult? Absolutely. But it made me such a better producer, and it helped me see the world. And it opened me up to a new sport and allowed me to learn what it's like to cover something that you're not familiar with. And that was really important. And it carried over into my prep for Olympics, because I'd never done curling. And, there's tons of Olympic sports I was not familiar with. So I could use the same approach I learned from the tour with those. So that's one. Deliver more than just the minimum. You're going to be assigned tasks. And, they could say, hey, can you go organize this tape shelf? Sure, I could go make the tapes all, pretty in order. Or I could take some extra time. I could alphabetize them. I could catalog them. I could make them actually useful for the producers. And then I stand out because I didn't just do the job. I did the job really well. Mm-hmm. And I made a statement. And now people are going to notice. And so if you take that extra time and you do something and you put, yourself into it and have pride in it, it can go a long way. Never give up on your dreams. I just mentioned that before. Like, if you miss out on opportunities, if you don't get the job that you want, don't quit. And I tell this people all the time. So many times, not getting a job is not a reflection of you at all or your skill set. Sometimes that job has been predetermined. They just have to post it legally, right? So it was never really open to begin with. Or you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Like, I didn't get an opportunity once, and I was all upset about it. And I thought it was a reflection of me. And come to find out, the person assigning had something else in mind for me. And if I would have done the thing that I was upset about not getting, I wouldn't have gotten to do the other thing that ended up allowing me to do 5 Stanley Cups. Wow. So like sometimes you just have to trust the things happening and know that the right opportunity will come when it's ready. And then enthusiastically approach assignments. Having a positive attitude about everything. If you're an intern and you're asked to get a coffee, like, be happy, be grateful. I say, like, one of the most important things of the Olympics was being the person that ran scripts, because if those scripts are out of order and Bob Costas or Mike Tirico is sitting at the desk and the wrong page is there, that's not good. And 35 million Americans are going to see that. Yeah. And that's on you. And you thought that was an unimportant assignment and you wanted to do something cooler. Well, everything matters. So do it with an enthusiasm, or as Jim Harbaugh would say, an enthusiasm known to mankind. And people will notice because they'll be like, wow, not only did they do a great job, but they did it with a great attitude. And I want people on my team that have great attitudes. Debbie Downers bring everybody down. Mm-hmm. I don't want that. Seize opportunities. Sometimes windows open and people are just too blind to look outside. So make sure that when an opportunity presents itself, that you take advantage. And sometimes you have to make your own opportunities. So seizing those is just as important. And then set the expectation. You need to know what you want to achieve. And if you don't make that statement for yourself, at least, how are you going to know what you've accomplished and where you've gotten to? So set the expectation for yourself, and if sometimes set it for your bosses. When you're having your meeting, say, like, listen, this is my goal. This is where I want to get to. So what do I need to do if I'm here to get to the finish line? First letter of all those things, put them together, kindness. Because with all of those things, the most important thing that I think has contributed to both my success and the success of the people around me is just being kind and doing the little things. It's free. It doesn't take a skill set. Anyone can do it. And it can make such a difference. We go out to dinner. How do you treat the wait staff? I've worked with on-air talent that have berated wait staff at dinners. I don't want to work with them. Because if you don't treat them with respect, you're not going to treat me with respect. Just opening the door for people. Saying thank you. Little things that go a long way. And being kind, taking time out of your day to do something for someone else. Even if it doesn't benefit you in that moment, it could benefit you in the long run. Yeah. So I think everything that you do, if you do it with kindness at its core, will help power you to success in the long term.
We need to make like a poster of all these things, like a kindness, put it up on the walls of the AC.
Do you have art skills? Because that's one thing that I don't have.
Okay, perfect. We can collaborate on this. Yeah, perfect. We can do it. Okay, when you look back at your career, I want 3 of the most favorite events that you've put on.
The Olympic Games, for sure, is a favorite. And don't ask me to pick which one, because that'd be like asking a parent to pick their favorite child. Sometimes it depends on the day.
Okay, favorite city that you've been to then?
Probably Beijing.
Okay.
Beijing. London, close second. But the reason I say Beijing is I had been to London on vacation, loved the city, great. I had never been to China, and Asia is just so incredibly unique and so different from anything I had experienced. So, and the Olympic facilities were top notch, second to none. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like the water cube and the bird's nest ever again. I mean, the money that they spent and their ability, I mean, they built all of these things from the ground up, and most Olympics, utilize current infrastructure. So like when LA has the Olympics, you're going to see all of the stadiums and things that you see right now. They're not building things from the ground up in the same way. So I don't know if we'll ever see anything as spectacular as that Olympic Village that was in Beijing that they built from nothing. So that was my favorite. I had what I call like maybe the most epic stretch ever in my sports career. I did the Super Bowl in Minneapolis. Wow. That, for those of you who don't remember, that was the Philly special. So Nick Foles and the Eagles upset Tom Brady. I was on the field when the clock hit zeros and the confetti fell. So that was epic. And my job that day actually was just to follow Tom Brady around.
That's not a bad gig.
And help set up the reports on his day. And I was happy to do that.
Was Tracy the sideline reporter?
No, so this was when I was at NBC.
Okay.
Tracy's with CBS. So I was actually with Randy Moss that day, and he was my reporter. So I worked with him all day. And then all week I was in Minneapolis shooting like fun feature things. Like I went dog sledding and ice fishing and did a zip line over the river, which was freezing and crazy, but got to do fun things. And then we took a charter and went right to Pyeongchang, and I did the Olympics. So I had a stretch where I was on the road, I think, for 7 straight weeks. But I got to do a Super Bowl and Olympics back to back.
Yeah.
And that was something I'll never forget. That, and then I would say being on the ice for the Stanley Cup, I was standing, there's like a photo, I'm in the background where Sidney Crosby is raising the cup, and I'm like right there. Was pretty awesome. See that. And so that was great. And then I'm giving you a fourth. You asked for 3.
Yeah.
But
give me all of them.
I know. Well, so it's funny. I'm allergic to horses. So my boss at NBC for the longest time was in charge of the Triple Crown, and had been like kind of upset that I never put into work on it. And I was like, it's because I'm allergic to horses. Like, honestly, that's the whole reason. And American Pharoah had won the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown, so the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. And my boss calls me. He's like, listen, I know you said you're allergic to horses. I honestly don't care. Like, we are on the verge of history, and I need you to work on this and field produce all the E&G for it. So I'm like, okay, well, it's history. So I worked the Belmont for the Triple Crown, and my job the day of the race was to follow American Pharoah around. And so in the there's several shots. I think I was like, one of them was Sports Illustrated, where I look scared to death because I was. We're in the like winner's circle. There's people everywhere, and my face is by this horse's butt as he's like getting crowned the Triple Crown champion, and I'm just in a panic because I'm like, if this horse gets spooked, I'm probably a goner. But it was such a cool moment to be a part of history in that way. And looking back on it, I think like, who knows when we might get the next Triple Crown, if we get the next Triple Crown.
That's incredible.
So that was a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
Okay, can you talk about anything you're super excited about ahead? Do you have any new projects you can talk about that you're excited about?
Well, so one of the things that I am the lead on at ESPN is I work on the NFL flag football championships. And it's been awesome because we literally launched it and broadcast it for the first time, not this past summer, but the summer before. So I've now done 2 of them. And ushering in this new sport to a new audience, I mean, it's going to be in the Olympics in LA. So to help lay the foundation and to get people excited about it has been really cool. And I love it because the best athletes in flag are the women. And so to be able to help tell those stories and introduce the international side of it and the competition and showcase this amazing talent. And now you can get college scholarships to play flag football. And don't be surprised if you see an NFL flagged league in the very near future with professionals playing. So the future of this sport is incredible. And I'm so excited to see where it goes. But more importantly, I'm excited to kind of be in it, at its very early stages and helping get people excited about it, hopefully. So shameless plug, next summer, be sure to watch the NFL Flag Championships. They're at the end of July, so mark your calendars.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to watch. But Kaitlin, thank you so much. You've been so inspirational for me since I first met you, but to be able to hear your full story and tell the audience of Hail to Her, which is about inspiring the next generation of women about what you've done, is so inspiring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can like run through a brick wall right now and do all the things.
I say like that's the thing that I tell people that I love the most about being and going to Michigan, right? You can get a great degree at a lot of schools. It's the people that make the difference. The people that you meet all over the world. I've met Michigan alums and fans everywhere I've traveled. But also, when you're here, you can't help but want to be great. I mean, because you're surrounded by the leaders and best.
Yeah.
So, I always said, like, one of my goals was to do something worthy of being on that intro video in the big house before the team runs out, or to, have a menu item at the jug named after you, right? Because like only the cool people get that. So, that's like, it gives you something to aspire to, because everywhere you look, you walk on this campus and like, oh yeah, there's a Rhodes Scholar and there's a Heisman, candidate, and there's a, guy who could probably win a national championship in something. And this other guy is probably going to find a cure for cancer. He just, hasn't done it yet. And because everyone's pushing each other to be great. And I love that. And I love that push continues long after you graduate, because you might leave Michigan, but Michigan will never leave you. And that has been abundantly clear to me every time I go out and I meet other great Michigan alums like Tracy and like Adam Schefter in this industry, because they keep setting the bar so high that I can't help but want to work really hard to do them proud and to do the university proud.
Well, right after this, I think I'm going to go to the jug and I'm going to give them all your accolades and be like, why isn't she already on there with your specific order? So wait, tell me your jug order that you want on the menu.
I think I want like a chicken bacon Swiss, but the key is honey mustard, maybe on ciabatta.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I think that would be my go-to if I had the option. But if it's already taken or there's something near, I have backup plans.
Okay. So. Yeah, write them down for me and I'll walk over and I'll just walk in the door and be like, this is... But anyways, thank you so much. Like, your story's so inspiring, and I'm so excited to have this go out and inspire all the women that watch this show and want to be like you. So
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Any of you watching, hit me up on LinkedIn if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help a fellow Wolverine. But if you went to that school down south, probably not going to respond.
Perfect. I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.